There is growing tension tonight among two of the world's most contentious nuclear nations. India and Pakistan have Kashmir for decades. Tonight, the problems are escalating. Here is senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott.
Nuclear-armed India and Pakistan facing off over the shared hotspot region of Kashmir. Long an area of war, terrorism, and bloodshed, experts are concerned again.
Kashmir is a region between India and Pakistan. Since 1947, it has been a subject of dispute between the two countries. When going into this topic, we hope to answer the questions of the definition of the conflicts, the causes and effects of it, the parties that are involved, the dynamic and the consequences of the conflicts. We will also try to better understand the conflict by trying to explaining it using the theories that we have learned. Aside from that, we will also talk about how far have the conflict been solved, and lastly, we will also talk about the possible mechanism that can be used to resolve the dispute and transform the issue of all the parties involved. For this video, our objective, we will go into further explaining the questions that we were hoping to answer and shed some light in this terrible conflict that have been going on for years, as well as provoking further discussion on this issue.
There are three main conflicting parties, including the people of Kashmir, India, and Pakistan. Firstly, India is directly involved in the Kashmir conflict, which became clearer when the former Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, claimed that Kashmir has been in history for thousands of years, essentially a part of India, and according to his speaker, also stated that Kashmir is its integral.
अखंड बनाने का संकल्प है जो मोदी जी ने समाप्त किया.
Secondly, Pakistan stated that the state accession to India was brought about fraud and violence. To respond to India, Pakistan view that Kashmir is the integral part of India is nonsense.
India has transformed occupied Jammu and Kashmir into the largest prison on this planet.
Another actor is the people of Kashmir. They have been carrying out the movement of self-determination. People are demonstrating peacefully and violently, and sometimes the Indian military force brutally attack on the peacefully demonstration. The matter is there are three different groups. The first one is a group who want independent, the second one a group want to ally with Pakistan, and the last one want to stay with India. The deep-rooted cause is the hostility between India and Pakistan over the possession of Kashmir. These both countries have no willing and intention to table this conflict to negotiate, so-called the non-negotiable goal. The conflict keeps escalating due to the behavior of each conflicting party. The division of ethnic groups is also another factor that caused the conflict in Kashmir. The population of Jammu and Kashmir is divided into two main groups, including Muslims and Hindus. The Kashmir conflict has produced a large number of displaced people. Thousands of people had migrated from Doha, Udhampur, Poonch, and Rajaury region. Another consequence is the death, and the Kashmir conflict is one of the violations of human rights in South Asia. Women are raped, children are killed, and people are forced to flee. The spread of violence, people of the Kashmir are living in fear with no security, happiness, and no fair environment.
The Kashmir Kingdom had existed for quite a long time ago, and the background of the conflict had always been about the Muslim and Hindu communal conflict, come from the British imperialist policy of divide and rule. The conflict has caused many deaths, destructions, war, and unrest for years. And in order to better understand this conflict, this paper will go into explaining the conflict using an international relation theory to try and analyze and explain it.
In this theory, it assumed that security is a social phenomenon constructed on the idea of norm ideology, and this theory can be clearly noticed by the Indian intervention in the Kashmir, where its government claimed to act to secure the region.
It was not always like this. At the beginning, the two identities played an important role in the British, which led to the creation of India and Pakistan in 1947. Pakistan is a Muslim state, while India is a Hindu majority state. The Muslims under the rule of Muhammad Ali Jinnah feared that their rights would be limited by the Indian. On the other hand, under Nehru, the Indian believed in secularism as a free place for all religions. And for a while, everyone lived in peace, but conflict arose causing the Hindu majority to be expelled, leaving India with the urge to fight back. The Hindu government waived the autonomy of Kashmir region to increase the Hindu nationalist interest in the region, as well as the influence of Muslim secessionist movement who has seen as threat to the Indian national security. Impression, ideal, attitude, and behavior for life are very similar to each other. Even in the past, even they are shown that the Kashmir people have always felt more drawn to Pakistan.
The Muslim majority in Kashmir are more socially and ideologically similar to the Pakistan's population. Therefore, the leader of Pakistan intervened because he fears about the India actions, which are seen as hostile move against the population of Kashmir. And the reason to why constructivist is the best theory to explain this conflict is because of the identity. Identity have always played an important role in shaping the action of states and in understanding their material and instrumental geopolitical and strategical interests. One of the elements in Pakistan's strategical culture is to oppose the Indian hegemony. This goal isn't just some prudent geopolitical strategy that comes from the fear of survival, but is also shaped by the long-standing self-conceptions that um, as a strong Muslim state that it is equal to the Hindu in India and thus must challenge the Hindu majoritarianism and domination. India, on the other hand, see that the strategy that they use have been too motivated by the Indian self-image as a secular nation that needs to challenge and demonstrate the artificiality of Pakistan's two nations theory.
The Kashmir region means differently to the two nations. For Pakistan, it is an important part of its Muslims' identity and the two-nation theory, while for India, it's a test case for secularism identity and has played a fundamental role in the significant security issue and nuclearization of the subcontinent.
All know that the Kashmir dispute lie at the heart of India-Pakistan tensions and conflict. Immediately after independence, when fighting broke out over Kashmir, India took the matter to the UNSC, which called for a ceasefire, followed by several UN Commission forced India and Pakistan resolution to sort out of differences on procedure and conditions. Actually, there was many measures had carried out to address this problem as well. In 1949, India and Pakistan signed an agreement to establish a ceasefire line as recommended by the UN, and the region became divided. In the same year, the UN sent peacekeeping missions to both countries. UN peacekeeping mission was not as strong as its peacekeeping operations are today, so the UN troops proved unable to protect the border between the two countries. Next, in 1958, the Graham Commission, led by the UN, designated mediator Frank Graham recommended to the UNSC that India and Pakistan agree to demilitarize in Kashmir and hold a referendum to decide the status of the territory, but India rejected that plan. And both India and Pakistan disagree on how many troops would remain along their border in Kashmir if they did demilitarize. Therefore, another war broke out in 1965. After that, in 1999, India and Pakistan battled along the line of control in Kashmir. But then in 2003, the two parties agreed on a ceasefire along the line of control, yet still internal unrest has continued. Most importantly, the establishment of the line of control in 1948 was insufficient. The UN then played the role of the mediator. On the 21st April 1948, the Security Council passed and adopted Resolution 41. A commission of 5 members was to go to India and Pakistan to restore peace in Kashmir conflict. Additionally, the commission was supposed to have this country prepare for a referendum to decide Kashmir accession. A three-step process also recommended to extension by first step, Pakistani national who enter Kashmir to find needs to be evacuated. The second step, India gradually was to reuse its troops in the region, and the third step, India have to appoint the referendum administrator who was nominated by the UN. As the result, India accepted this resolution. However, Pakistan rejected it. So at the end, there was no withdrawal of troops, and the referendum was not held as well.
The settlement of the Kashmir conflict will undoubtedly bring peace and security not only to the disputed region but also to Southeast Asia as a whole. And two noticeable resolutions that could be implemented and utilized would be firstly the mediation from the United Nations. So a resolution to the problem of Kashmir process ought to consist of incremental measures, and the violence in Kashmir as such need to be brought into a quick end in order to set the stage for a solution. Thus, there are two approaches that would possibly contribute in settling the prolonged conflict in Kashmir. And in this connection, resolution that could implement it and utilize would be demilitarization and mediatory assistance from the UN. In line with that, international organizations, particularly the United Nations, could play a prominent role in helping to settle down and provide the assistance needed for the negotiation process. The mediatory could be arranged in order for India and Pakistan kickstart their dialogue and prevent further violence. The sense of cooperation between conflicting parties, India and Pakistan, is crucial for the approach of starting the dialogue. Therefore, having the UN as the mediator would initially build up the sense of cooperation and trust between both parties and would lead to negotiation taking place.
To conclude, the Kashmir dispute is the complex and long-standing dispute that could not be shown and even hold a peaceful negotiation possible for settlement. Given the previously applied approach and mechanism throughout conflicting periods has shown failure, the possibility of negotiating conflict resolution is uncertain. The two approaches that could possibly ease the tension would be the mediatory role of the UN and demilitarization.